Good morning, Harrison. This season ended in a different way than last year, of course. Just where are you guys at as a group, and do you feel like this was a successful season, or did it leave you wanting something more?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's still trying to process the abruptness of the ending of the season, but I think when you look at all the goals that we had coming into the season, I think the floor of that was making the playoffs. So to miss that, it's a little bit of a disappointing feeling, but at the same time, you should get back to the drawing board, figure out ways to get better.
How valuable do you think it was for this group to go through a year of having more expectations compared to last year and also getting a little bit of that postseason experience with the play-in?
It's good, but I think at the same time, it gives you a lot of motivation to not be in the playing situation coming to next year, right? You play all these games, you work to get into a certain position, and I think like I said after the game, it's easy to look at these last few games or the last game and try to say, it's a microcosm of the season, but I think there was a lot of opportunities that we had early on in the season to not be in that position.
Harrison, when you do look back on the course of the season, as far as the defense, things of course started off slow because you guys was trying to get that system down, but towards the end of the season, it seemed like it was coming together. Just want to get your thoughts on that, going through that process, and how to make it better going into next season.
Yeah, I mean, coming into the last offseason, defensively we knew we needed to be better. Offensively, we feel like we had things going in the right direction. And this year, defense has obviously improved. Offensively, went a little bit backwards. So I think for us, it's finding that middle ground. Obviously, you want to be a top 15 offense, top 15 defense, to be a playoff team and to go further. So for us, it's a matter of how can we do that at a high level.
HB, heading into the offseason, what do you think needs to be added to this roster to put it over the hump, to make it a playoff team every single year? Or do you believe the roster that you guys currently have is good enough to do what you guys want to do?
I mean, it's always a tough question when you get eliminated, in the play-in, right? Because if you get to the playoffs and, whatever may happen happens, maybe we're reevaluating things differently. I think, first and foremost, I think we have to look at the season based off when we were healthy. The type of team we were. And then from there, I mean, that's, really just, a money question. But, selfishly as a player, I feel like we had enough talent to compete with anybody in this league when we were healthy. And I feel like we showed that at times.
Harrison, back-to-back 82-game seasons for you for the first time in your career. What's been the key to just your consistency, especially at this point in your career?
Man, just a team of people, honestly. A team of people that keep me right physically, mentally. Obviously, my family for the sacrifice of all the things that go into, playing every single night. There's definitely a lot of nights, you're not sure if you have it or not sure if you're going to be able to play, but, just by the grace of God to be able to play 82 is it's a great feeling.
HB, going back to that last question, do you think do you take this season at face value? Given the results, the record, a little bit of a step back in terms of where you were in the West, or is it hard to really assess that given some of the circumstances that you guys dealt with?
I mean, I think, like I said, when I look back at our season, I don't necessarily think what we're lacking or what didn't we do. I think more so about the games that we played that, we lost to under 500 teams in a way that wasn't consistent with how we wanted to approach things. And I think when I look at that and I look at, where things could have been, I say, okay, that changes our whole outcome. That changes the whole vibe of the, building right now, the whole vibe of, this interview, all of that type of stuff, right? So because of that and the way we lost in the play-in, I'm not going to overreact and say, like, we need to blow this thing up. I was talking to somebody after the game, I don't remember who, and I was like, this is, back-to-back years that we've had consistency in terms of a front office and a coaching staff standpoint. You know what I mean? There's different levels to what disappointment has looked like in this franchise, at least in my tenure of being here. So I think for us, it's taking stock of that and just saying, look, how do you improve the roster going forward, knowing that we're not starting at, a top 5 lottery pick team.
When you look back at some of those losses, like to the Pistons, the Hornets, Blazers, Wizards, is it when you look back? Is it like how you guys approach things as a team? Why do you think those type of matchups were difficult for you guys this year?
I think it's just finding consistency. I mean, I think when you look at some of these games that we've lost, and you look at what are the top 5, top 6 teams in the West. I mean, those teams, they took care of business on the nights that they were supposed to. And I feel like a lot of times we won games, maybe we weren't. I mean, in light of today's circumstances, I don't want to say favored to win, but against teams that were up there in the standings, and there were games where we should have won, that we just didn't have the right mental approach. And it comes back to, there's not always going to be, there's going to be a tomorrow, there's going to be another game. We get to the last 2 weeks of the season, right, and everyone's hyper-focused, the Dallas series, the New Orleans, Phoenix back-to-back, things like that. Looking at the standings, the last couple games, those games matter. And, the coaches have talked about it. We talked about it as players early on in the season, right? But I think to actually go through that, last year when we did it, as a number 3 seed, it's a little bit different. But this year, where those games actually mattered, it came back to bite us.
And then one more, Malik's going to be a free agent, and obviously he's had a great year. What has he meant to you guys, and have you had conversations with him? Or will you try to convince him to maybe even take a pay cut in some ways to stay here?
I think you said it right. I mean, he had a great year, 6th man of the year, without question. So I think it's a credit to him and what he's been able to accomplish this year, but what he's given our team. And when he went down, obviously that was tough to replace. But I think he knows that he's got a home here. We all want him back. We understand the business of things. We understand the nature of how that works. And ultimately, he'll make whatever decision is best for him. And the economics are what they are. But in terms of wanting him to come back, or him knowing that we want him to come back, I don't think that's any question. I mean, he's important to this team. He's important to what we do. And more importantly, I think the friendships and the bonds that he's made here, I think, supersede all of that.
HB, you talked about the consistency of the coaching staff and the front office over the last couple of years coming into the season. The consistency of the roster as well, bringing the core back, including yourself, was, I know, a big talking point. Can you provide the player perspective on how you felt that played into kind of the growth of this team, especially on the defensive end, and the positives from the player standpoint of keeping a group like this together and sticking with it and not reacting to a season and making changes or things like that?
Honestly, it's just having a shared experience. I think looking, like I said, not to keep dwelling on the past, but just like going from year to year, like when you're constantly like flipping the roster, like it's tough to know what you're building. And I think from last year to have that group to this year coming in with a different expectation, and frankly falling short and feeling what that feels like, right? I mean, in a span of 48 hours, you go from like a great play-in win to a, disgusting play-in loss, right? So it's all part of a process, right? Having these guys here, going through that. I mean, still understanding that, the growth from a Keegan, a Keon, a Davion. I mean, there's still moments where you look at that and you say, okay, there's things that we can take from this experience, even though it was, a disappointing end to the season, even though obviously it was a painful finish, things like that. To not be able to beat New Orleans this season, there's still some positives that can be taken away, from the group.
Harrison, we talked about sort of the inconsistency of you guys as a whole this season, but you personally had kind of an up and down season. What is it that you think contributed to that? Was it opportunity? There's a myriad of things that could do it, but what was it that you feel like that caused sort of the inconsistency in sort of your numbers?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was just role. I think at the beginning of the year, I think we were still trying to figure some things out. And Coach and I had a few conversations, and my job was to go in and kind of just fill in what was needed. And then I think as the season went on, as the ball moved different places, guys went down, things like that, that changed. But I think coming into this next season, I think we're still going to have to try to figure out, what's best for the team, and guys have to be willing to sacrifice. And obviously, when I'm asked to do that, you embrace it, you try to do the best you can, and you go from there.
Hey, Harrison. Coach often talked about the value of where the team wants to go has to come from within the players. How do you feel like you all have progressed this season in pursuit of that?
Sorry, say the last part one more time.
How how do you feel like the players? How do you feel like you as a group, as players, has progressed in that regard?
Yeah, I think guys definitely they have a lot more ownership in what's going on. I think you have guys that are committed to being here, committed to winning, committed to trying to put their best foot forward, to make this franchise better. And I think when you have that, that's what makes the team better. It can't just necessarily be, coaches talking and things like that. I mean, guys are really starting to take ownership in that, like I said, embrace that. And I think that's what's going to allow this group ultimately to be better.
Going back to the consistency within the organization, for Mike specifically, what has he kind of meant to you at this point in your career, and why do you feel like he's been such a good fit here for this team?
Yeah, I mean, Mike's done a great job of, I think, instilling a culture of discipline and just accountability to everything that we do, whether it's how we prep, our practices, our drill work. He's definitely more old school in that regard in terms of just making sure that we go through everything. But I think for our group, laying that foundation is big, and I thought he did a great job of doing that this season.
Harrison, De'Aaron grew defensively, leading the league in steals, established a high volume of three-point shooting, averaged 30 points per game earlier on in the season. With the stars you've played with in this league, what do you see the next step for him being, or just his evolution and where he can still go?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any denying what Fox is capable of. I mean, I've played with some of the best in this league, some of the best to ever do it, and he has that potential. So I think the next evolution for him, honestly, is really just continue to do what he does, but continue to make winning the main focus. I think these last 2 years, I think, has definitely shifted the narrative around him necessarily. I mean, obviously, he's always had the numbers, but just winning more games, being in that conversation, and I think the only difference between him and some of the other guys in his position regarded in those conversations is the wins, the playoff experience, all that type of stuff. So I think as long as he works extremely hard, so as long as we continue to do that and continue to win, I think that'll continue to change how people in this league view him.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Harrison.
Appreciate it, guys.